I know we can get really confused on the times that we all get together for these
Yeah.
kind of Zoom chats. This is what we've been doing through the whole pandemic, and yeah, it's been really interesting
Yeah.
to say the least.
We're up for the challenge, though, aren't we?
Oh yeah, always, always. So, how have you been doing? You've been performing a lot during the pandemic. Have you been doing a lot of those Facebook Live kind of things?
Um, it's been um, it's been challenging for artists in the UK. A for travelling abroad because the pandemic had a lot of borders closed, including to England, to the United States, and also within the UK itself, we had two, maybe three lockdowns, was it? And so live opportunities were very few and far between. I got into doing, I don't know if you can see, but my trusty Variac guitar there. I got into doing live streams from Facebook and then StreamYard, I think it's called, which enabled YouTube listeners. So I just got into the habit of doing that, very lo-fi, but at least a chance to play to an audience and talk to them. Got a Facebook group called Mick's Golden Gang, and that was where I played the live streams too. And I got over a few hundred followers during the pandemic, so that was good from nothing. And bit by bit, things opened up again. So last summer, I played three shows with my band, including a London show in August. And London was quite slow actually because that had a bigger infection rate and all that for the pandemic. But we did play a London show last August with the band, and then this year I was booked for a festival last month, the Minehead Victorian and Steampunk Festival. So I just did me and my guitar on that one. But yeah, it is starting to open up again. And during the pandemic, as I say, I was doing live streams and really just focusing more on my production work. Reaching out to sync agents in the States, Los Angeles mainly. So I've now got sync representation for my music in America, which is good because they can then go knocking on the double TV companies and film companies, and all I do is focus more on producing the music.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because you get to a point where it's like, well, I don't think I'm going to be on like the stage all the time, but I like to do TV and film work, which there's a lot of that. There's so much content now, so you could really get out there and just add to a lot of these productions, which there's tons of work for those kind of musicians if you're into doing that.
I mean, there was
Uh,
there's a lot of noise about Kate Bush recently running up that hill, uh, and I've just come back from Spain, Bob, as I was telling you,
oh, cool.
and we watched an episode of that with a Kate Bush song on it. What was the series called?
Uh,
Mysterious.
it's called Stranger Things on Netflix here in the States. I don't know if you probably could get Netflix in the UK. I'm sure maybe their
Yeah.
own version, but
I mean, I was
yeah.
watching with a friend in Spain. It was Stranger Things, yeah, and it was like very teenagey and a lot of teenage angst in it. And uh, we're waiting for the Kate Bush theme to come on, and it came on. I, I'm not sure, but I think her music's running at the hills featured in every episode. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it's really gotten a new life. It's really amazing. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That kind of thing has just been, I mean, how many decades old now?
It
And
keeps,
just
you
to
know,
see that, yeah, resurrection.
yeah, it's incredible. So I'm really pleased for Kate that's been a hit over in the States, and it just shows that music that can catch on via a TV program like that
Yeah,
can 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 have a new lease of life for a song. That song's, what was it, 30, 40 years old or something, running up that
yeah,
hill.
yeah.
It made top 10 in America, but it didn't. She didn't have a huge following over there. It was, I think, number two over here in
Wow.
England. But now she's got like a young following that's interested in her music and running up the hill. So it's not just a new lease of life for that one track, but a new lease of life for Kate Bush and her music. So that's the power of modern TV and its music.
Yeah.
And I think, Bob, there's whatever's happening in the live situation, the pandemic. There's always going to be a demand for content on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, with
Um,
the streaming services too, you would think, well, many, many years ago, it was just like, the three big networks here in the States, and I'm sure, a few in the UK, but it's expanded with the streamers. And so that gives you so much more opportunity. And somebody like Kate Bush, and I remember her way back in college, back in the 80s for me. We were interested because of Peter Gabriel put her on his So album.
yes, that's
That's
right.
how we got to know about her.
Don't give
So
up. Yeah, don't give up. That's it.
unbelievable. Yeah. Oh my
Beautiful,
God.
beautiful song.
Yeah. Just beautiful.
And also, I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but at that time they were doing a series of collaborations, Peter and Kate. And there's a British TV program which they just did together, and they're doing a sketch together. They're singing together. If you can look it up on Google or whatever, Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush TV show. It's just a lovely moment. I don't remember it first time round, but I checked it out. Someone sent me a link on YouTube, and there it was. Peter Gabriel
Wow.
and Kate Bush in a TV show together. Just
Yeah. And what a Renaissance guy Peter
having a cup
Gabriel.
of tea together and or doing all that sort of stuff, and it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really incredible. Yeah, I look forward to his new album. It's just wow, what an inspiration he is. I'm not, I talk about music. I'm not producing music, but wow, what an inspiration. You talk about like Peter Gabriel or David Bowie. These
Yeah.
kind of guys were just such Renaissance guys.
And personally, I think that was Peter's masterpiece, or one of them anyway. It was
Oh,
just so well worked. I've seen these documentaries about how the making of So, and Daniel Lanois, his
yeah.
producer. He's one of my favourite producers. I'd love to work with him one of these days. But what the two of them together was just such a good chemistry in the making of So, and it for me it stood the test of time, Bob. It's still there as an important piece of music.
I interviewed one of the guys who worked on the horn section for Sledgehammer. His name's Mark Rivera.
Oh yeah.
I've known him for years. And
Okay.
he knew the minute they walked in and they were doing this arrangement, he was like, yeah, this is gonna skyrocket up the charts. Just one of those things you don't really know a lot of the times, as you probably know. It's like, I don't know if this is gonna go anywhere, but
Yeah, yeah.
you just knew it.
But I think it was the same guy. Peter wanted that horn section in because were they part of the Muscle Shoals or the Otis? He wanted something to do with Otis Redding. He wanted that
Um,
sledgehammer to be a tribute to Otis Redding, which I do with some of my tracks actually, just in going in a particular direction. And so he was thrilled to have these guys in there.
hmm
I think Mark was on one of those documentaries about the making of So, and he was saying something like, I don't know who the hell this Peter Gabriel was, but he got into it once he was there, and then
Yeah.
loved the experience, and like you say, knew this was going to be something really special once he became acquainted with who Peter Gabriel was.
Yeah. Otis Redding, I'm here in Georgia, and I went to the Otis Redding Ranch. I did an interview over there once, many moons ago. Met Otis's wife, and she pulled out his old slippers that they
Oh,
found him in from the lake in Minnesota where he went down. That was a little surreal. And she took us into his den, and there was this lazy boy, and there was a letter from President Johnson sending his condolences. Yeah, Otis Redding. Wow. And I met Otis Redding Jr. We had to follow his car because it's like in this rural place in Georgia.
mm, mm. I mean, I was too young to sort of get into the Otis Redding thing first time round, but the YouTubes have seen, and Peter Gabriel was talking about that tour he did, which really changed his life. And I just loved. I would have loved to have been there at the time when Otis hit England with his whole band, and the footage I've seen him is just incredible performer. The studio music I've heard that he did, Muscle Shoals, that string section.
Hmm.
You
An
know,
incredible artist. Yeah, we lose the good ones like way, way, way too young. Otis Redding and a guy named Jim Croce who
Jim
died
Croce,
almost 50
Bad
years
Bad
ago.
Roy Brown, yeah, yeah.
Oh
But
gosh.
hearing people like Steve Cropper talk about Otis, you know, Steve
Yeah.
co-wrote "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay," and just that scene. Just I love hearing about those scenes and wish to be part of scenes like that myself.
Yeah.
Even just a fly in the wall, seeing the magic there. You know, Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush, Steve Cropper,
Yeah.
Otis Redding. You know, it's
What legends? Yeah. Yeah. Steve worked with Jim's son, who I've had on the show, AJ Croce.
okay.
A few years back, they did a record, very good record. AJ's got a lot of other influences beyond his father, although he has been covering his father lately. But another Renaissance guy, just amazing and just multi-talented.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into all of this? Where does your musical journey start?
Uh, I'm from Liverpool,
Hmm.
England. So even though I wasn't in that generation, the Beatles left a huge legacy, not just with Liverpool and the Liverpool culture, but with me as well. And I was just off a coffee now with a guy who's a big Beatles fan, and you know we talk about the Beatles hours and end because they were hugely influential. One of the first bands that started not just singing in harmonies and as a band together, but also writing their own music. And in the Beatles' case, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison, three world-class singer-songwriters, living a few streets apart from each other. I mean, you know, what's the nearest we've got to that in America? Like Motown, I guess, and you know, in Detroit, with that situation, we had that in Liverpool. So I come from there, and that was um, just hearing how those songs were produced, hearing how the vocals worked together, hearing how they harmonized, particularly John's voice. I love John's voice, but the whole band together, and then growing up with that sound and you know getting a little obsessed by the Beatles, how they work, the stories. I mean, I saw Get Back. Did you see that Get Back?
Yeah, yeah, it's an amazing stuff. You
I
know,
mean,
compared to
about
that original Let It Be, I mean, wow, they really recreated that.
really recreated. I mean, talking about being a fly on the wall. The
Wow.
people I've spoken to who saw that, it was like being a fly on the wall of this very important time in musical history where George was just leaving the band, and that was a huge influence for me. And I also got into the blues. Um, you know, I was learning guitar, listening off records. You know, the old thing about slowing the records down and hearing what the guitar licks were doing, and then speeding it up. I was doing all that. That was how I taught myself, and listen to guys like Eric Clapton, Jimi
Yeah.
Hendrix, Jeff Beck, you know, and then going back to their influences like the Kings, Albert, BB, Freddie, all of those guys, and then later on, early Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, good stuff.
so I combined those two, you know, the sort of the songwriting, singing magic of the Beatles with the blues sensibility, which I've still got. And with that, I started working in, you know, with different bands in my teens, actually in a schoolboy band. Um, where we actually did a couple of Eric Clapton numbers, thinking back in it, just schoolboy stuff, but Stepping Out and Hideaway. We played that live. I wish we had a tape with these days, which would just
Yeah.
be curious to listen to. But you know, the sound was like lo-fi. It was schoolboy. But I went on from there to join other bands when I went up to college. Then came down to London, got involved in some teaching first in London, then on to the session circuit. So I came up through the session circuit as a guitarist, and then as a producer, starting working with other people's music.
Beautiful.
You know, I moved down to Brighton and gone into my own solo project, which I call the World of Mick, as well as working with other people, which I still do. as a session guitarist and as a producer, but also these days music for TV, film, and adverts.
Nice, nice. So doing these solo projects, how do they come together? Now, your new release is out. So tell everybody about your newest
It
creation. It
it's
sounds
not out
really
yet.
interesting.
It's not out yet, Bob. I mean, I sent you the master of it, but
Yeah, by the time I probably will release this, we'll have
oh,
it
okay,
out.
yeah. No, as we speak, it's not out, but it'll be the next few weeks. I'm talking to a couple of um, industry professionals in the next couple of weeks. Now I'm back from Spain. Um, yeah, it's the World of Mick. This is Mick II, the follow-up album to my first one, which I released just before the pandemic, late 2019. That got out on Spotify, and someone managed to get 2 million streams
Yeah.
on Spotify, Apple Music, all of those um, platforms of good repute.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
how I found you. It was like through Facebook. It just like, pops up. I mean, this is like, it's kind of cool though, how like it's just random and then it ends up in your wheelhouse.
yeah. So that came out, and did a few TV shows promoting that. I was flown to Belgrade a couple of times. They picked
Hmm.
up my stuff out in Serbia. Played some festivals doing that. Like the most recent one was the Minehead Festival, as I say earlier, last month. Uh, and I've started playing live through my live streams and some live face-to-face shows now. Songs from the new album, the second album, Mick II. Like I said, it's not out yet, but I'm hoping to get that one out on vinyl and
Nice.
physical form, vinyl, CD, and cassette, as well as on the streaming services this time around. So we're having a look at that at the moment. But so far, the 5 or 6 people that have heard it, Bob, have really liked it, and
I
got
heard the
some
master.
very
Yeah.
favourable response so far.
Yeah. Do you have artwork lined up for it? I could kind of see a cool album cover.
Yeah,
Anything in mind?
funnily enough, I'm speaking to the artwork guy later today, actually, just after this. I've got another call in half an hour's time, and then after that, I'm going to speak to him, or he said tomorrow morning. But he did the artwork from the first album. We went for a kind of southern states railroad type
Yeah. Yeah.
shot for Mick Wynne. You see a bit of that on Spotify artwork.
Yeah.
He's a guy called Ollie Weird who used to work for. He's a good friend of mine, but was to work for Warner Music in the
Oh,
UK, Sony Records. I think it was London Records before that. So he had an artwork job for the major labels, working with various artists like the Orb. He did something for Madonna, that kind of thing. But now he's indie like me. So we've done a few shots round about his locations. We've got one shot for the cover of the album, but we're going to talk about what we do for the rest of the artwork. What kind of font to do, and what kind of text. Because I've got the credits for the Mick II album, but I want to make sure everyone's credited fairly. They want to be known like they want to be known, if you see what I mean, publicly. So he and I are going to go through the credits list, other pictures, what pictures would be good for Spotify, what picture would be good for YouTube, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've got a call with him later on today or tomorrow morning. Ollie, that's the artwork story, but that will be happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks, as well as a release.
nice. Now that artwork for your previous release, is that all over your website? And where can we find your website?
Yeah, the website is called www.mick.world, WORLD, and it's up on my Instagram. There's some of the artwork up on Instagram, which is Mick.world, I think it is. And the Facebook, Mick's Golden Gang, the Facebook group, Mick's Golden Gang. So those are my three main outlets for my artwork. And then hopefully when the vinyl gets released, it'll be the artwork in a larger size, because one of the things we have these days in the digital age is there's not much of a deal given to the artwork in music, which is just streamed. You see a little bit on Spotify, you see a little bit on Deezer or whatever, but in the day of the vinyl, and we've still got vinyl fans.
Right. It's a real treat to get something on vinyl.
I think so, Bob. I think it's a treat, and artists like me spend quite a bit of time, on the artwork, because it's an important part of the experience. I think, I don't know about you, but putting on a record, seeing it spin or whatever, and then having a look at the cover and saying, oh, okay, so and so played this, and we'll like that picture there, that one there, that, it's more difficult to do on a stream. And when we had MP3s, there was no artwork at all. It was just as an MP3, it plays.
Yeah, it's nice that you could take it with you when it's in streaming form, MP3 and everything. But then again, you're missing that wonderful artwork. Remember in the 70s? I mean, yes, look at those album covers and Elton John's original releases.
Yeah, Roger D.
Oh my, you get these huge booklets. Remember Captain Fantastic? What an amazing album.
Pink Floyd, the Hypnosis Pink Floyd albums. Incredible artwork, and I'm a musician, so I say music will stand the test of time. Peter Gabriel we were talking about, and Otis Redding, but I think artwork, good artwork, can stand the test of time as well, and we could still be talking about a Pink Floyd cover or an Elton John cover in 50 years' time. Well, maybe not you and me. We might be in someplace else then, Bob. But
maybe the kids, the grandkids, if I have them. Yeah, that's great. You got a lot of good tracks on this new release. So what are your influences here? It seems like it feels very original. This is a really nice collection of songs.
Yeah. I think there's of the contemporary artists, I like what Billie Eilish is doing. There's one or two dark songs on my album. I don't know whether you've heard Don't You Go It Alone, but that's sort of more on the spooky side of my music. Ed Sheeran, I like the way he just works, one man and his guitar.
Don't You Go Out Alone is a really good, and you have a stripped down version of that track too, which seems like it would be nice in a scary movie. Don't You Go Out Alone? Yeah.
A couple of people have said that actually, but I had some people when I was making it questioning, well, why are you putting the same track on, the same album, same song, and for me, it's not the same song really. It's the same lyrics, same melody, but I'm doing a different vocal, and for me, it's a different track. It's got a different feel to what the electronic studio multi-instrumental version is. So I've put two tracks in there called "Don't You Go It Alone," but you listen to bands like Pearl Jam, and they were quite often doing that. They do like a band version and then do an acoustic version, and I'm happy that there's both versions going on the album.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, and maybe people would do that like as a B-side if that were a single or a bonus track. So I'm used to that kind of thing. If you're going to hear a different version of the same song on the same release.
Yeah. So there were a few questions asked when I was doing that, but that was my answer to it. I'm treating the tracks differently, different vocal and different feel. Same spooky lyrics, but you might get one, say it went on TV, you might get one person saying, oh, well, that'd be great for that scene, the acoustic version. I can't possibly hear the electronic version going in there, but might get someone else saying, oh, well, I really like that electronic version, but the acoustic version has too little on it, I want more of the band sound. So each to their own tastes, that's what I say.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You have a kind of a comical track on there, Friday the 13th. An accordion on that?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was Um, on the Mick One album, I did a protest. I made a protest song which was popular in America actually when I was playing over there. It was popular live, called All Quiet on the Eastern Frontier. And that one, All Quiet on Mick One, was about my experience living out in Pakistan and the whole sort of edge of terrorism and something just about to happen. There was that when me and Ron Magnus, the Grammy winner I was working with for a while, we were out there. We sensed that edginess and the sort of the whole drugs thing. You know, it was the big heroin trade at the time,
Huge.
just on the border with Afghanistan. So it was all that. And with this one, Friday the 13th, was just a protest song about, you know, the ecology and how, you know, it's my message about how we, you know, need to look after the planet more and take care of our planet. It's our home. We live here. I'm just asking, please show someone more respect to the planet than we do, or some of us do. So that's what that song's about, Bob. And I wanted to do it in that sort of singer-songwriter protest format with just a minimum instrumentation rather than just the whole band doing it. Just me,
Hmm.
my guitar, and an accordion.
Hmm. And you give the bass a bit of a workout on this release too. I think Gravity is one of these tracks that really features a really nice driven rhythm to it.
Yes, yeah. Actually, the guy who made that program when we were just sketching out Gravity, he's passed on. So I'm giving him a credit on the record, Justin Jones. But he and I had some great moments together in the studio, and I'm really sorry that he's not around, not in this room anyway, Bob. But he's not around to listen to Gravity, to the way it's come out, because I'm really proud of the way it has, and I want to give him credit for that. And I'm trying to remember. I played bass on a couple of tracks. I might have played bass myself on that one. It was either me or Justin who'd done the original bass. But
So do you have your favorite instrument in there? Something that maybe has been with you a long time, you know, like Paul McCartney's Hofner. Do you have something like that in your collection?
yeah, I mean the Takamine, which had just taken to Spain. Actually, that's been around the world with me. The Takamine, you know, Singapore, New York, Germany, Holland. So I used that a lot. Uh, and the Fender Strat I've still got. I played, yeah, played a few tracks on the album with the Fender Stratocaster. That's that's about 30 years old now. That Fender, but that's been to Pakistan with me, where I wrote All Quiet.
Oh,
Take it out to New York with me. Nashville, been to Nashville with that. Played on the
yeah.
session circuit for a while in Nashville.
It's a good community up in Nashville. I talked to a lot of artists there. It's just it's a great it's not like LA, New York. It's just
Um,
a real supportive community.
I mean, that a friend of mine, I've just finished his album. Actually, it's now mixed and mastered for him. He's doing the artwork to finish his uh, bit now, but he wants to go out to Nashville with his new album. He's a guy called Mick Flynn. He wants me to come with him. I don't know whether I can at the time, but he's never been before. So I was saying it's a great community, very supportive. The times I've been out there, I've been lucky enough to play on sessions and also to be in the round. You know, they have this in the round, these house concerts where there's people. You know, I was sitting next to Mel Tillis, who wrote "Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town." Another times right to the writer of Detroit City, and like here's me coming over from England just doing my thing, and it's the same appreciation as the guy next to me who sold like 10 million more records than I have. It's just it's a great leveler, the songwriter community in Nashville. I've never known anything as supportive as that where I've been, as in Nashville.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when George Harrison was. I think he was jamming with Carl Perkins. There's some video of him doing that. It's like this is so neat. I mean, here you are, like on different parts of the globe, and how you come together, and it's just so fascinating to hear how like Little Richard and these people inspired the Beatles. I mean, people who came, you know, from the States here, and you know, it was like, oh yeah, they take their transistor radios and hide behind their parents and listen to something like Little Richard and Elvis, and like
Yeah,
bam, it just took this to a whole other level.
take a whole other level. But like when I was coming up as a guitarist, like listen to Jimi Hendrix records, Eric Clapton records, Peter Green records, and Fleetwood Mac, and that's how the Beatles did it. They'd be getting their music in, not online. You didn't have the internet in those days. You had records, vinyl coming in on the ships into Liverpool, and the Beatles would have their contacts to get it from the docks onto their record player. And then it'd be like Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. They idolized Smokey Robinson, and as it turns out, Smokey was very respectful to the Beatles as well, as he said. But Little Richard, Elvis was a huge influence before my time, but it was the same process of like learning from the recordings, hearing on the radio, hey, what's that? I can still do that now. I can hear a good record on the radio and like be getting the goosebumps, just like I'm in the studio hearing a good mixer. Wow, that's a fantastic track. I want to hear more of that. I'll go out and buy it. I'll go and get it and then play it.
Yeah,
Coming off the ships, it's that the Beatles were learning Tamla Motown songs from those records coming off the ships. Mr. Postman, that was in their set. Twist and Shout, the Isley Brothers. The Isleys wrote that. I went to see the Isleys in London quite a while back, and they played Twist and Shout there, and Ernie, the guitarist, I think it was, or Ronnie, one of the two, said on stage, this is a song where we'd made it in America, put it on a record, and then I got this phone call from John Lennon. I thought, who's this guy? Because the Beatles weren't famous then. I would like to do your song. Can we do Twist and Shout? Sure, yeah, of course you can, yeah. And that was their story. The Beatles made it famous, probably gave it a new lease of life with just hearing it coming off on the ships or a bit of radio. That can change people's lives. It's changed my life, hearing stuff on the radio.
Yeah, those inspiring each other. That's really how it all works, and it's just fascinating to hear how they derive off of that, and you create your own stuff.
Yeah,
it's a great feeling. You have one instrumental on this release.
Oh yeah.
So was it just you get to a point where it's like I'm just done with the lyrics at the moment, or how do you get into just saying I'm just going to dedicate this track to just being instrumental?
Actually, there's two, Bob. I mean, there's one called Theme from Z Cars, okay, which is the last track on side one. What I've done is like sequenced the tracks as though it's side one and side two of an album. So the last track of side one is Theme from Z Cars, which is complete instrumental. There's no vocals on that at all. And that's just me playing slide guitar, playing the melody to this famous Liverpool song called Theme from Z Cars, which was originally a Johnny Todd song, which had vocals. But the TV theme was the Z Cars theme, which, for those who know the football, they call it soccer in the States. For those who know the soccer, it's the theme song for Everton Football Club, that one of the two big Liverpool clubs, that when the home team comes out, every match on the home game, they play that music. So I heard it and thought I'll do my own version of that, slide guitar version. So that's one theme from Z Cars, but the other one is called Really Miss You. Is that the one?
Really Miss You, yes. That really stood out to me. I was like, this is, forgot about the theme songs. But yeah, that's Really Miss You, just very deep and emotional. I just was curious about the origins of that.
Can I ask you first, before I start talking, what did it conjure up for you when you heard it? Did it make you think of a particular artist or band or?
No, not anybody else, but just how nice and mellow it was, and then you have this tempo change, and just which I don't hear too much, and then you get a little. Then, you have a little bit of bluesy vocal towards the end, but mainly this is where it's like 90% instrumental. Yeah. So that just really jumped out at me. I never heard anything. I never heard anybody do something like that.
I wanted it to be a tribute of a certain era, which had guitar instrumentals, because I am that's how I came up as lead guitarist with the blues, which featured the lead guitar, but also had a tempo change at the end. And I wanted the focus to be on the sound of that track as an instrumental, with a guitar playing the melody without a lead vocal. But with a tempo change, that kind of, it's like almost brings in a new song. It's part of the same song, but it is kind of a new song with that tempo change. So I've got a bit of vocal coming in. Really miss you. Yes, I miss you. Doing that. That's the way I wanted the focus to be on that track. And I'm glad you picked up on that one, Bob, because again, it was a bit of a risk. Some people were saying, well, why are you putting on an instrumental track? You know, you sing a songwriter, you know, is that? And it's part of me. You know, I'm a lead guitarist as well as singer-songwriter. John Mayer, look at him. He's a fabulous lead guitarist, but he's also a very well-known singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And, you know, hats off to John for doing what he does. Thanks, John.
Oh, absolutely. You know, nobody would have ever thought that he would work with the Dead. It's just like, here's this huge uber pop star, but it's just really, whoever would have thought, or even a Bruce Hornsby, these people who had huge charting songs.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah,
So John's got that freedom of expression to do that, and he's also got his is it the John Mayer trio or quintet or something? But he's got a
right.
jazzier, bluesier thing that he does, and I think that one is just instrumentals.
Yeah.
There's no songs in that one at all.
You know, it's really tough with lyrics. I mean, like, you know, there's certain artists, like we talk about Billy Joel, who just like he does all the lyrics and the music. And he's out of lyrics. He's like,
Yeah.
I could do the music, but I'm sick of the lyrics. And there was just a special that Fareed Zakaria did on Billy Joel, and Fareed, and this was my favorite question. He asked Billy Joel, "Hey, why do you do lyrics?" He was like, "Well, because I got to sell records. This, the record companies, is looking for that. So it's about the sales. But honestly, it's the hardest thing to do. And then you got something like Sir Elton John, who has somebody do all of his lyrics. It's a tough thing. Do you find that to be difficult?
Yeah, to quote Peter Gabriel, actually, he said, "If you've got something to say it loud." So with the lyrics, I won't say it unless I've got something to say. Each song has got its own statement to it. So, like, "Really Miss You," I wanted the statement there to be something about a guitar, that's electric guitarist that's playing the melody to that. But on other songs, say "Don't You Go It Alone," I want that to be said in a kind of spooky way from an experience I've had. Bits of voodoo in it, the jungle wakes, the atmosphere is black, all that kind of thing. I've had those kind of experiences. How do I put that into a song? I can make music for it, but I've also got some lyrics for it. That's the thing. So the lyric can help explain the song rather than just as a piece of music. And so it is with all my lyrics. I know some guys that write poetry, and then other people help them turn that poetry into music. I mean, I've heard Bob Dylan's like that. He, a lot of his songs start off as poetry, and then further down the line he'll add some melody and some musical arrangement to it.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, a total modern day poet. It's that volume of work is truly astounding. Just when you think about his songbook,
Yeah.
just very very deep. But yeah, one of my favorites is "To Make You Feel My Love." A zillion people have covered that. It's just
Yeah.
a great song. I like your closing track, "Stroll On," and it's, to me, I feel like there's this late 60s, early 70s West Coast US vibe. Was that kind of like what was influencing you there?
Yeah. Again, it was atmosphere. It sounds like a breakup song, and in some ways it is, because like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, music is in the ear of the listener. But that was actually about a band splitting up, a band breakup we had, and it's like my message to the guy whose band it was, like, stroll on, you've been well worth knowing, and hear me well on the path you're treading. Um, and so I wanted the references to be a bit like the references we had in that particular band that meant something to me, and probably something completely different to you or anyone else listening to it. But it was coming from that, and then I realised that, well, actually, this is a band's a bit like a marriage anyway, and when a band splits, a bit like a divorce. So it's like a breakup song, as well as a band splitting up song.
Mm.
And,
Yeah, so many can relate to that. Yeah,
I'll
that's
tell you a story about that. Actually, I was telling, as I was re-recording some of the stuff for it, I actually dreamt that. Paul McCartney dreamt Yesterday. That's a famous one of
right.
him. Yesterday, I
Scrambled
actually
eggs.
scrambled there, trouble scrambled. I actually dreamt the guitar part in my head. And it's like, and it took me a whole day after that. Luckily, I could, like Paul did, remember what the tune was. And it took me probably just over a day, but a whole day to work out what the tuning of that guitar riff is to be able to play it. And I did it in the end, but it's not a normal type of tuning. I mean, Joni Mitchell's famous. She I think she's underrated as a guitarist as well as a massive, massive songwriter, singer that she is.
Oh,
The guitar tuning she used. It's easy, Bob, to say I'm the first person that's ever done that tuning, because there's always someone else coming along and say, well, actually, no, this tuning was on the record 40 years ago by Joni Mitchell or someone else. But all I know is I've never heard that tuning before in my musical experience, and I dreamt it and managed to get that down on the guitar tuning and then put it to tape when I wrote Stroll On. That was the start of Stroll On, just hearing that tuning in my head.
yeah, yeah. That
Only
Joni
week.
Mitchell influence. Yeah.
Oh,
Is there a
Joni.
sitar that I'm hearing on there?
There is a bit of a sitar, yeah, yeah, yeah. That is a
Uh,
bit of a sitar.
Brings me back to Ravi Shankar and George Harrison's concert with him.
Kind of, yeah, kind of, because um, you know, George, so long you've been well worth knowing. I mean, he's been a huge influence in my life, not just as singer-songwriter, but as a slide guitarist. I think he's one of the most underrated slide guitarists ever.
Yeah.
My first album was subtitled Mick I, The Way of the Slide Man, because there's quite a bit of me playing slide guitar in it. And who's an influence there? Dwayne Allman, George Harrison, Bonnie,
Yeah. Geniuses.
guys like
Oh.
that. Geniuses. Yeah.
But on the conversely, Not for Sale, that seems like a pretty deep love tune. Is that to anybody in particular, or just anybody who you want to conjure up that you have deep feelings for?
Yeah, there's plenty of people I can conjure who I've got deep feelings for. I mean, Mick I was actually quite a bit about breakup and falling in love. This one, Mick II's, more a few references, to the subject of love, breakup, makeup, finding love. But there's more subjects I'm talking about, singing about on Mick II than there is on Mick I. Love is Not for Sale. I mean, that's a co-write. One of my collaborators, Phil Sarchi, who I worked with on the first album and the second album, Phil co-wrote that. So there's a bit about him in it as well as a bit about me. So I can't totally claim all the credit about the influences, but rest assured, when I'm playing it live, I've got someone in my head I'm thinking of where it can have some extra special meaning when I'm singing it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. We'll
Very
have
well.
this out when your release comes out. So, when do you expect this to be released?
Well, 1st of July today. It could be. I've got a couple of calls coming up. I'm seeing a label guy in London next week, I think it is. He's been offline, he was saying, so he hasn't been able to listen like you have to the masters while he was offline. So when he gets back online again, he'll listen to them. But I won't be releasing anything in the next week, but it could be in 2 to 3 weeks' time. what's that, mid second or third week in July, or the beginning of August, second or third week. It'll be around that time, Bob, that
Okay.
they'll be going out. And do you know there's a vinyl shortage at the moment? I could,
I'm
even if,
not surprised.
yeah, this label guy was telling me, because some of his bands on the major label, they've got to wait 6 months to get the stuff out on vinyl. There is a vinyl shortage, which is great in a way, because that shows that the vinyl demand is right up there.
Yeah.
But from an artist point of view, a label point of view, it's going to be 6 months, and I'd rather get the album digitally out there within that 6 months. So as I say, the next few weeks, even if I have to wait 6 months for the vinyl to come out. That's physically how long it's taken them. I mean, Jack White from the White Stripes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jack's supposed to have bought up, I think it's 3 vinyl pressing plants in the States.
I didn't know that. Wow. I'm not not surprised with that one either, because he's very hands-on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very hands-on. I'm not a big fan of Jack's. He's done a lot of
Yeah.
retro stuff recently, and I've seen him working with these retro artists in the 70s, 80s, and
Yeah.
90s. It's like Buena Vista Social Club all over again. But he's a big fan of vinyl as well. And even with him doing that, and I don't know who else is having a go with the vinyl, there's still a shortage. Certainly in the UK for UK artists, there's a shortage of vinyl and a 6-month waiting list to get it out. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
Good deal. Well, the new release out, and just been great speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time. It's a
It's a
really
pleasure.
enjoy.
And thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good one.
Cheers, Bob.
Bye bye.
Bye.